Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. In the wake of the May 29th fuel subsidy removal announcement by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, renowned journalist and spokesman of the Tinubu Campaign Council, Bayo, Onanuga, expressed his criticism of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress on Twitter regarding their planned strike against the removal of petrol subsidy. Onanuga accused NLC President Bayo of displaying political bias and serving the interests of the opposition Labour Party.
He argued that Bayo was well aware of the financial challenges that justified the removal of subsidy and called on perceptive workers and the Nigerian public to disregard him and his supporters. Onanuga suggested that Bayo's actions were aimed at destabilizing the administration led by President Tinubu, aligning with the agenda of the opposition party.
Onanuga has, of course, further questioned whose interest Bayo was truly representing, highlighting the fact that Bayo did not oppose his own party's position and presidential candidate, who campaigned on the promise to eliminate subsidy from the first day if elected.
The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC has on Saturday shunned the meeting with the federal government delegation held at the presidential villa, stating that there would be no discussion unless the government returns the price of fuel to its previous rate. NLC President Bayo told news sources that until the federal government obeys the Appropriation Act of 2023, which makes provision for subsidy, till the end of June, Congress will boycott the meeting with the government. Joining us to discuss these concerns and more is Dr. Charles OLUDARE, MARINDOTI, Public Affairs Analyst, and he joins us all the way from the United States of America. Good morning, Doctor. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, I think we would start with, the NLC's demands. NLC has demanded that the price of fuel be returned to status quo, and until this is done, they would have no further conversations with the government. Is this just merely an argument to raise dust? Is there any possibility that the government would actually adhere to the demands of the NLC?
Thanks for that question. I really don't understand the demands of the NLC. They said, according to them, it sunsets by the end of June. So they are just planning on a short 23-day strike, and then they'll come back to work. Because I don't understand why the NLC is trying to fight for the cabal, who everybody knows have been taking advantage of the Nigerian state to, make some poor subsidy money for another 23 days. I don't understand the economic position of it. I don't understand the reason why the NLC is going on strike, really. And I think while there is no, facts to back the basis for what Bayo Onanuga said, also, it's something that people can think about in terms of why are you not trying to come to the table? Why NLC should be an organization that is geared towards fighting for the needs of the masses, of the people who are poor, who are under its umbrella. So why are they against the increments of salaries that the president was talking about? Why are they not negotiating to determine the rate at which the salary was going to be increased at, and maybe fast tracking it? Why are they not fighting for investment in roads, investment in education, investment in healthcare? You go to your hospitals, you don't have bed space, you don't have all the equipment, no CT scan. Why are they not fighting for that? Why are they fighting for the interest of these skilled people, the cabals, to make the extra money? And the fuel that is being consumed in Nigeria, about 50% is consumed by the elites in the first place. So why is the needs of those people the most important, the most germane to them? They did not fight this battle when the Petroleum Industry Act was passed in 2021, August. They did not fight this battle when the appropriation bill was passed in 2023. Now they want to start a strike about something that is bound by law because to occur. I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Well, I'm not, I'm not sure, if you truly stand by your views that the NLC is fighting on behalf of a cabal, and fighting on behalf of the cabal that has benefited from the oil subsidy. I'm not sure about that, but, you probably would speak a little bit more about that. But I'm sure you've also, listened to the concerns of the NLC. And their concerns are pretty much the same thing that a lot of Nigerians are saying, that there have to be different ways with which this can be done. We can't just randomly, on a random, Saturday or Monday morning, end subsidy verbally. That palliatives have to be put in place. Steps need to be taken to ease the process through which subsidy is removed. the reality for a lot of Nigerians is that when subsidy is removed, I mean, if subsidy is removed and petrol price goes from 185 that it used to be to 500 or 600 or 700 naira, Nigerians cannot afford what comes next. And that is what NLC is simply saying, that it should have been done in a step-by-step process, not just, immediately like that. And so do you think that the current administration, the Tinubu administration, has made it clear to Nigerians how it plans to ease the removal of subsidy, how it plans to make life bearable for Nigerians when subsidy is removed? Has it made any of those plans? And shouldn't those things have been put in place first before going on with the removal of subsidy?
Thank you very, very much for that question and give me the opportunity to clarify. I was asking a question hypothetically that because when the subsidy gets put back in place, the people who are going to make the money are going to be the cabals. The people who are going to benefit from subsidy are going to be the rich.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I'm sorry for cutting you in. We're not just finding out about cabals 7 days ago. Whoever it is that we assume is benefiting from subsidy, we've always known. So it's not breaking news that these things exist.
Yes, I do agree with you, and that's why I was going to my second point in terms of like the rollout of the subsidy. There's a bit of a responsibility that falls on the shoulders of the previous administration also, because the most important part of policy implementation is policy communication. They passed the Petroleum Industry Act since 2021, but the people have not been subsequently sensitized about the impact and all, and the interventions had not been carved out since. But however, when the president came into office, he did not have the time because it was like the whole country was unaware. You could see there was a video of the former Minister of Transportation saying that subsidy has already been removed. So the president did not have the time. There was no time. He had to tell Nigerians the subsidy is gone. And so in terms of the interventions, the government is today is 7 days old. So why is the NLC not continuing the negotiation in interest of the Nigerian states? Nigeria is broke. We don't have what it takes to subsidize poor for these countries that are benefiting from Cameroon or Benin Republic. So that is why you will want to ask Labour why they are not trying to negotiate those interventions. The president's spokesman corrected the people that it's not palliatives, it is intervention. So why are the Labour union leaders not at the table right now, sitting and negotiating the terms of those interventions and fighting for the people? Why are they trying to say revert to the price first before we say anything? So they are trying to bargain for 23 days of extra subsidy payment. So what happens after that? Labor Congress is not a tantrum-throwing organization. They're supposed to be fighting for the people. So they should be negotiating the minimum wage, which the president was talking about, which would be funded by the money that is being saved by this subsidy.
I don't know if subsidy is paid daily. I don't know if it is every day this is what we make from subsidy, and so for the next 23 days this is what we can make. I don't know if that's the way it works. But the same way people would, or your demands are for the NLC to understand what the government plans. If they're not palliatives, there are moves to the government needs to make and all of that. The reality that Nigerians are facing now, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the NLC, the reality that we're currently seeing is that Nigerians are currently dealing with a 300 or almost 400% increase in the price of petrol. And so the NLC is saying, if we're going to reverse, then we can come to the table and then understand what the government's plans are for Nigerians. If we're going to remove subsidy and we're going to move the price of petrol, 300, 400% higher. I might be wrong. Olive, I think you want to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, yes, you're very right. And in terms of like subsidy doesn't get paid, but if it gets reverted to that price, somebody has to take still pay the bills. So that was what I was talking about. But in terms of the the intervention, the subsidy removal itself is an intervention. Let me give an example. So in 2012, when President Goodluck Jonathan tried to remove the subsidy, the price was supposed to go up from like 65 naira to about 200 naira. At that time, all a barrel of oil was over about $120 per barrel. Right now, a barrel of oil is about $80 per barrel. So one of the reasons why fuel is going up this high is because the value of the naira is weak. So if you remove subsidy and the money that we are losing from subsidy payment goes into our foreign reserve, it will help boost the value of our currency. If the value of our currency is being boosted up, then the price of oil will come down.
Well,
the regulation also will bring in
some
investors.
can I just quickly butt in here? Some people have asked why the current administration thinks that this is a good time, because I mean, like, we go back to the time when this was about to be introduced many years ago in the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan time, and what we did see is that the people who are implementing it now were the ones who protested against it. So why is now such a good time for this to happen? That's one of the questions people are asking. Also, I mean, looking at NLC and TUC's demands, you've talked about them negotiating the salaries of people, of Nigerians, as opposed to giving the government a deadline to return to status quo. How much influence do you think the NLC has in ensuring that the government increases, not just increases minimum wage, but actually ensures that this minimum wage is paid? Because there are still states that are owing till today.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. I'll try to address the first question in terms of like when President Goodluck Jonathan came up with it. One of the reasons the current crop of people who were in the opposition, who are now the person governor right now, were against this was the fact that the interventions were all made in scam. There was the Sure P program. Personally, at the time, I was in my final year in university, and people were telling me to bring in fictitious proposals to get 50 million naira, which was being doled out at the time as subsidy, the Sure P program. That was why they were, against it. So coming to right now, when you talk about the benefits of doing it right now, in terms of like, can you please remind me the last question? I think I forgot that.
So we're talking about, I mean, you talked about President Goodluck Jonathan's one, but we've talked about the fact that how much impact does the NLC have? Whilst you are suggesting that the conversation should not be to revert the price to status quo, but to talk about negotiating minimum wage. But I'm asking, how much impact and influence do you think that the NLC has on the government in ensuring that the minimum wage is not just increased, but paid, seeing as there are still states where salaries are being owed?
Yes, but that is a part of what the conversation is. I'm of the opinion that the minimum wage should not just be increased for government officials, but for even private employees, and there should be an act that unifies that and enforces it. So one of the major interventions that the subsidy removal is also going to bring is the fact that there will be significantly more resources in the hands of the state governors. So the state governors can pay their salary. The money that is being saved will not be sequestered in the hands of a few, but will be disseminated in the hands of all. And that will boost commerce. And then private employers too will be making money to pay their salaries. Like I said, the government is just 7 days old. The NLC should have shown a bit of goodwill in terms of ceding some time with them and working with the government, because the previous government has failed to make salient steps. They were trying to distribute cash transfer of 800 billion to a few people. I did the math. If you were going to just give 5% of Nigerians the 800 million, that would be about $80 per person. Now, the poverty index in Nigeria is over 60%. That $80 is about 35,000 naira. It will not do anything. So this new government needs to come up with its own plans of implementing it. But there is no justification for a broke country, for a broke person to go and be paying money for another country to be having cheap oil. Yep. There is no justification for it. Yep. So the NLC should be with the Nigerian program, which is the removal of subsidy. It is to the benefit of all and sundry.
Yeah, but I think the bone of contention here is the way that it is being done. I don't think anyone is arguing about the necessity with removing subsidy. The other presidential candidates pretty much said the same thing. And, like Oliver had mentioned, in 2012, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former president, also tried to do the same thing. But of course, he had his own pathway to removing it. I think the bone of contention here is the way that it is being done. And, easing the process for Nigerians. Listen, we are the country that has the highest number of poor people in the world. I want you to understand that if you remove subsidy, which is a good thing, and you do not make somehow, some way, the process easy for Nigerians, you are creating more chaos for these people who can barely eat, who can barely find confidence that they would have lunch today. I'll tell you, there's a lot of Nigerians that are not certain that they would have dinner. In fact, breakfast this morning. There's millions of them. And so imagine what happens when you take away or you increase the cost of living for even those ones. So the current administration hasn't said anything about an increase in the minimum wage. The current administration hasn't said anything about fixing refineries, so maybe we can start local production fully. The current administration hasn't said any other thing to help Nigerians understand how they can make the process easier for them. And I think that's where the challenge is. And I'm also should mention something. You say that the Nigerian government will save money and channel that money into something else. The Nigerian government doesn't have money that it has in its wardrobe that it pays to subsidy. It has been borrowing money to pay subsidy. So what we're instead going to do now is not borrow and reduce the amount of money that we're borrowing to pay subsidy. It's not like we've had some money somewhere that we've kept. And so when we stop paying subsidy, we'll then channel that money into infrastructure or channel it into education or something. It's not like that. We have been borrowing money to pay subsidy, and now we're going to stop that. So I want you to, quickly, if you can, squeeze it into a minute. Tell us your views on if the current administration will be able to fix any refineries or convince Nigerians that they would not suffer so much.
Thank you very much. There's no sweet time to take a bitter pill. If you have to take it, you have to take it. So what you're talking about is the temporal order of payment of subsidy. Whether they pay it, we back pay it, or we borrow to pay it, we still have to pick up the bills eventually. And if we are not losing this money, then we can have it in terms of diverting that resources to someone else. Every country runs on what's it called, on credits. But in terms of like the building of refineries, the deregulation means that would allow other people to be able to come into the into the refining business and probably develop their own, maybe have more modular refineries. Those are the plans that need to unfurl, but these plans take time. So this administration is 7 days old. It is making a plan to make these things better, but NLC needs to be patient with the administration and allow for the plans to unfurl and be on the negotiating table. You don't walk away from the table. Even warring nations sit on the table. Ukraine and Russia, they are still talking to each other. So you don't walk away from the nation. You have just 30 days, right? So in the 30 days, keep on planning. The Nigeria is not going to expire on June 30th. Right. Nigeria continues. So the NLC should stay on the table and negotiate with the government.
All right. Brilliant, and thanks for joining us this morning. In those 30 days, Nigerians will have to deal with the realities. It's not 30 days to think about it, 30 days to actually deal with it. But thanks for your time. We look forward to speaking with you again, and have a brilliant Monday ahead.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.